Now, let's just get your personal opinion or feeling on it. Are you mostly hopeful about the new development bank?
Well, I think it was high time that the developing world effectively get an equal say in terms of global financial institutions. And I think they've been held back by the inadequacies of of representation in the IMF and the World Bank. And I think given the rise of importance of the Chinese economy and of the other BRIC countries as well, I think this is a fair play in what is the changing global relations in the world. So on that basis, I think I'm happy. But of course, when it comes to the practical success of this bank, there are many questions still to be answered. And the big question will really be, what kind of loans does this bank make? What kind of regimes across the world will in fact come to this bank for support? And will this bank really institute proper checks and balances in an independent way on those countries looking for development aid? I mean, if rogue regimes, for that matter, decide to come to this bank because the IMF or the World Bank certainly won't lend the money, what kind of checks and balances will the new BRICS bank put in place to try and prevent the bank from becoming simply a lending instrument for those who can't get money anywhere else for all sorts of reasons? And I think those issues still very much have to be ironed out before we can say that this bank is going to assume what could be an important place in the world to assist developing countries, particularly in their infrastructure requirements.
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting because South Africa, we're almost infamous for not taking a stand on other countries' political or economic policies, where Russia aren't afraid at all to say, we don't like what you're doing in your country. So it will be very interesting to see how they decide who will get aid and who won't.
Well, I suppose the interesting thing about certainly South Africa, Russia, China to a degree, and India, is that these big nations, developing nations themselves, have one common characteristic. They are not likely to interrogate the domestic political policies of other countries. There's a commitment, in a sense, to non-interference in the policy decision making of other countries. So other countries who find themselves in the need of cash may prefer to come, of course, to the BRICS grouping, in a sense, for their loans, because China are not going to interrogate the human rights issues from a particular country. Nor is South Africa, for that matter, nor is Russia, especially given problems in many of those countries with human rights questions. So these are issues, I think, that are extremely important for the credibility of the BRICS Development Bank. Just how do they deal with aspects of human rights abuses of countries that do come cap in hand for some sort of loan? And do they take an adequate stand on that? But given some of their own inadequacies in this, are they suddenly going to become moral judges on other countries' internal politics? And I think this is something that we haven't seen in the world before, and it's a fairly interesting, and I suppose from an analytical point of view, exciting development to see how this BRICS bank will play itself out. In the end, I think this bank, to retain credibility, will need to take a relatively tough line on those countries coming to it. They're going to have to judge those requests for loans on the merit of those loans in particular, and on the ability of those loans to be paid back, and on the transparency of how that money is going to be spent in the various countries. And these systems, I think, will develop over time.